The history of keeping records in Sri Lanka commenced around the 3rd century BC. From ancient times up until about the first decade of the 19th century, there was an officer who was in charge of the royal archives. According to accounts among local sources and British officials, an officer named Mahamurti, or the Chief Secretary, maintained the archives in the King's Palace in Kandy during the 18th century and the first decade of the 19th century. The National Archives of Sri Lanka possesses no records of Portuguese times, as they were destroyed by the Portuguese themselves in order to prevent them falling into the hands of their enemy, the Dutch. The Dutch, during their administration in the maritime districts of the island, meticulously kept a well-maintained archives which commenced in 1640 and handed them to the British at the time of their surrender in 1796. The new administration of the British started their archives at the Chief Secretary's office in Colombo, where it was placed between 1796 and 1944, known as the Government Archives. During the Second World War, it was shifted to a building in Nuwara in order to safeguard them from any possible danger. In 1947, it became the Department of Government Archivist. In the early 1960s, it again shifted to Sri Sumangala building of the Sri Jayawardhanapura University at Ganguravilla. The department again moved, this time to its permanent location in the former racecourse in Colombo on the 15th of August 1986. The National Archives received statutory status with the introduction of the National Archives Law No. 48, enacted in 1973. The National Archives of Sri Lanka is in possession of diverse record groups, totaling over 500, of which the oldest is the Record Group 1, the archives of the Dutch East India Company administration in Sri Lanka, consisting of 7,496 volumes written in Dutch. Among them are the Dutch Political Council minutes, correspondence, tombus, and so on. These are of immense value to researchers of the mutual heritage and in establishing the cultural identity of Sri Lanka and the Netherlands. The National Archives of Sri Lanka has been performing a very productive professional exercise with the assistance of the National Archives of the Netherlands under the projects Towards a New Age of Partnership, or TANAP, and Phase 2 of TANAP, which is known as TANAP 2 from 2001 to 2005, and from 2005 to 2009 respectively. This professional exercise was widened in 2005 with the assistance of the Netherlands government under the Sri Lanka Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Program, known as NAP, which was implemented by the Ministry of Cultural Affairs and National Heritage, in collaboration with the Department of National Archives of Sri Lanka. The NAP project will be concluded by the end of 2009. The conservation of archival material is a serious responsibility and a complicated task, which is laborious and often time-consuming. It cannot be performed without adequate knowledge in this specialized field. Skills and experience in handling documents, tools, equipment and other materials contribute much to the success of any restoration work. Records on open racks are exposed to dust and pollutants in the air. Moreover, they tend to deteriorate due to chemical, biological, and physical causes. As a preliminary step, the records are cleaned, the damaged items are identified, the volumes then wrapped with acid-free paper and bound with a special cotton belt. Then they're placed in a box using a special cardboard box for extra protection and are placed on racks. The material and the cost of boxing were provided by the National Archives of the Netherlands under the TANAP program. The documents in the tropics are very often subject to fungi and insect attacks. Sometimes stains, discoloration, and wrinkling of pages is visible due to such deterioration. The accumulation of acidity and growth of fungi and insect attacks are frequent. The first step is to clean the volume and paginate it with an HB pencil. The documentation begins next. All physical observations are recorded. Acidity levels are recorded by testing the pH value using a pH indicator pen or pH paper or a pH meter, and the readings are entered in the documentation sheet. The technical assistant who supervises the TANAP work then recommends feasible treatment. Then starts the dry cleaning of the document. If necessary, the wet cleaning process is also applied using water or chemicals. As a rule, before using water or liquid, the solubility of the ink should be tested. If the ink is labile, the lettering should be fixed using Crucial G. Then the documents are deacidified using calcium hydroxide by sinking them on a saran cloth in a calcium hydroxide bath for about 20 minutes and then allowed to dry in a normal atmosphere by placing them on drying racks. If badly deteriorated, calcium hydroxide is applied using a sponge and then placed on a glass sheet at the document repairer's table, and the traditional repair processes begin. This method begins with laying the selected document on a polythene sheet spread on a glass plate and flattened with a small quantity of water using a sponge. Then another polythene sheet is laid on top, flattened again, and the excess water is removed using a bone stick. Then the polythene on the top is removed and the conservation paste is applied. All the holes and damaged edges are filled with handmade paper. The document is then strengthened by pasting tissues on a single side or on both sides of the document according to what is required. Finally, the document is laid on a perspex sheet covered with a piece of terylene cloth and placed in a dryer for 24 hours to make them ready for binding. In this process, a leaf casting machine is used. First, it is filled with water and placed on a net. Then the document is laid on a polyester supporter. It's followed by filling the machine with water up to the support screen and covering the edges with black plastic strips. pre-arranged pulp mixture is added to the water and allowed to be mixed with water. Later, the valve underneath the tank is opened to remove the excess water. The water pulp is then sucked through the holes and automatically fills the missing parts of the document. The plastic strips are removed and the polyester support laid again on the repaired document by pressing down with the hands. Tissues are laid on documents using Tylose and carboxymethyl cellulose. Once this is over, the pressed document is kept in the dryer for 24 hours. When dried, the document is ready for binding. All repaired documents are checked by the chief document repairer and the technical assistant for the maintenance of standards. This method was introduced by the National Archives of the Netherlands, and they provided 2 leaf casting machines after conducting a training workshop. After drying the document, the 4 edges are trimmed and arranged according to page numbers to make up the final volume. Each page of the volume is then guarded with strips of 100 GSM white cartridge paper with a 1-inch fold inside. All guarded documents are arranged in sequence and pressed using a nipping press. Finally, the volume is made stronger and is better protected by adding a hinged cover tied with a cotton cord. After the completion, the assistant archivist technical checks the entire volume to see whether there are any mistakes and what needs to be done to ensure good quality. Under the TANAP 1 and 2, about 900 Dutch volumes have been completed. Microfilming and Photography Division of the Sri Lanka National Archives is engaged in microfilming of archival records under Phase 1 and 2 of the TANAP. Microfilm protects the original from excessive use, and it preserves the information in another medium. Having gained sufficient knowledge of the problems and the condition of the documents, the photographer begins filming, adhering to the ISO standard. The first step is to expose the document to a camera on a flatbed surface. After filming, the reel is processed using a microfilm processor. Then a master negative is prepared following the accepted international standards. Then a master positive film is prepared using a duplicator. As some of the documents are brittle, shrink, or are discolored and with poor legibility, the best technique in microfilming should be adopted. All the microfilms are subjected to quality control using the necessary equipment such as an inspection table, densitometer, and microscope. The clarity, density, resolution, and excess hypo content of the film are tested using these equipments and chemical solutions. After that, they are again checked using a microfilm reader. In case it is necessary to issue paper copies or digitalized copies from the microfilms for scholars and other readers, a reader printer is used. Up until now, around 2,000 both negative and positive films have been produced under the TANAP 1 and 2 projects. In terms of the MOU of TANAP 2, the microfilm negatives prepared have been sent to the Netherlands by courtesy of the Royal Netherlands Embassy, and the positive films are safely deposited in the National Archives of Sri Lanka. The archives of the Dutch East India Company have accumulated as a result of the administration in the maritime districts and preserved for over 350 years in Sri Lanka. It forms an integral part of the Sri Lanka-Netherlands mutual heritage. The land records created in the mid-18th century, called Tombus, are of immense value in respect of contemporary land administration and studying social and economic life of the maritime districts of the island. They are still being used to prove property rights of residents in the maritime districts. The manual index prepared by the late archivist Mr. S.A.W. Matthau has been computerized to allow easy access to the information registered in approximately 21,000 entries in the Tombus that has been initiated by TANAP. The entries of the Colombo Disavani and Gaul have been completed under this project. This activity continued under the Sri Lanka-Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Program. All the entries of Matthau's Tombu Index are computerized and checked. This index is already available in the database. The manuscript, with an extensive introduction by Professor K.D. Paranavithana, is ready for print. The publication of selected important Dutch documents in the possession of the National Archives of Sri Lanka has commenced as far back as 1905. Since then, 15 memoirs of the Dutch governors and senior administrators have been translated into English and published in this series. This activity, too, was resuscitated with the funds made available through the Sri Lanka-Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Program. The latest are the memoirs of Governor Daniel Overbeck, dated 1743, and the memoirs of Liebrecht Herman, Commander of Jaffna, dated 1748.
Now, if I take, for instance, these several words like main.
The utilization of this treasure trove, the Dutch archives, will never be possible without knowledge of the 17th and 18th century Dutch. This problem has been addressed to a considerable extent by organizing a training course for the officers in the department. It was of 1 year's duration and consists of 80 lessons of 1 hour each of theory and 1 hour for practicals, designed by Professor Paranavithana and conducted by him twice a week. The knowledge of the participants was evaluated by way of a written and practical examination held at the end of the training period, and the successful participants awarded certificates.
By Briefen fanden Svefanen Twinta, July des voorgaanden jaren.
පිළපත්නාමය දන්නවද? ඉදල ඉස්සෙල්ලාම සීයලගේ පිළපත්නාමය.
Tombus are a unique set of records not available in any other former VOC settlement and provide valuable proof of the property rights of the people living in the former VOC administered areas, and there are frequent requests for extracts. The Sri Lanka-Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Program assisted in this matter and commenced translating head and land Tombus into Sinhala. Initially, the Tombus of the Kalutara district have commenced. This is moving along speedily with the knowledge of the officers who have been trained in 17th and 18th century Dutch during the weekends. Competent retired officers are also engaged in this activity during the week. The translated pages are computerized after checking again with the originals. The project looked into the needs of researchers and the public as well. Scanning is a method that could be applied in duplicating documents without damaging the original. It also helps the researcher to obtain quick copies either in the form of hard or soft copies. The scanner, the computers and the printer that you see here was purchased under the present program. The microfilm reader purchased under the project is now being used by researchers. The reader printer serves the needs of visitors who wish to make digitalized copies of microfilms. The Sri Lanka Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Program supported in obtaining overseas training for staff members who were actively involved in accomplishing targets mentioned here. Ms. Vasanta Egodawatta, Records Investigation Officer, obtained a postgraduate diploma at the National Archives of India. Mr. T.G. Sirisena, Mr. M.A. Sriyaratna, document repairers, and Mr. M. Ranjit, photographer, have also undergone training in preservation and conservation at the same institution. This exposure is of immense value for conducting training programs in our institution to train other members of staff. Another staff officer has already left for a one-year postgraduate diploma to India. You may have seen from what was projected on the screen just now and the table that you see on the screen the extent of work done with the funds made available under the TANAP Phase 1 and 2 and the Sri Lanka Netherlands Cultural Cooperation Programs.